Elizabeth, right? Please, the floor is yours.
Maybe say a few more words about Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Is it okay, Sha?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, please.
No, I think it's very important with the recommendations. All the teams have been bringing them together based on the discussions with all the speakers. So we have now 20 recommendations, and Elizabeth is a young farmer from Uganda. And she is also the president of the East African Farmers Federation. We may have many more people online now than early in the morning, right? So they have to know who you are. Director of Women's Affairs at Pan-African Farmers Organization, PAFO, and past president of PAFO as well. So she will read out the recommendations as we have them now. They are in draft also on the website, right, of the conference. They are still draft. We would like to see a lot of input as well, because we think really, like what Sha just indicated, that this is also a sort of agenda for all of us together, all the stakeholders, research, implementation, governments, farmers, for the future. And what is especially good at this conference also, we ended with the farmer's perspective. We tried also in the beginning to mention it clearly, but Elizabeth, the floor is yours. Your own comments on that are welcome as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would like to again add on the introduction that you've just made, because I know there are many colleagues probably from Uganda who are connected. So I'm a young farmer from Uganda. I sit on the advisory board, which I chair, of the National Alliance of the Agricultural Cooperatives in Uganda. At the regional level, I'm the president of the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, as introduced. And at continental level, I'm the director of Women Affairs at the Pan-Africa Farmers Organization, but also the immediate past president. And at the global level, the World Farmers Organization, I'm the Africa representative on the board of the World Farmers Organization. So it's indeed an extraordinary honor and privilege, not only for me, but on behalf of the farmers that I represent in this meeting, to deliver a draft recommendations for the Global Conference on Sustainable Plant Production. For us as farmers, it's not always an opportunity to be recognized at such a high-level event. So we can't really take it for granted, and I want to thank FAO for giving us this opportunity to deliver these recommendations. And I hope going forward, other UN organizations and the stakeholders in the House can pick a lesson so that farmers are brought at the center of such events. So the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or what we know as FAO, hosted the first ever global conference on sustainable plant production with the theme Innovation, Efficiency and Resilience at the FAO headquarters in hybrid format from the 2nd to the 4th of November 2022. The conference was attended by over 1,500 participants from over 130 countries, FAO members, stakeholders, and partners. The overall objective of the conference was to provide a neutral forum for FAO members, for us as farmers, for scientists, development agencies, policymakers, extensionists, civil society, opinion leaders in the private sector to engage in dialogues on innovation that creates efficient plant production systems with resilience to biotic and abiotic stresses, to climate change, to natural hazards, and geopolitical disruptions. Strategically, the event was a means through the implementation of FAO Strategic Framework 2022 to 2031 to transform to more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems for better production, better nutrition, better environment, and a better life, or what we call the 4 betters for FAO. And leaving no one behind, thus contributing to achieving the SDGs. Especially, we are looking at SDGs 1, 2, 8, and 12. The 3-day event was opened by the Director General of FAO, Dr. Q Diong, and featured 8 keynote speakers. This closing plenary session include a report on the conference recommendations, and a high-level ministerial segment will follow later to have their insights on the conference, but also on the recommendations. In between, there were 12 subsessions, 2 of each, of the 6 themes: the seed systems, field cropping systems, protected cropping systems, natural resource management, integrated pest management, mechanization and digitization, and a 7th theme, farmers and enabling environment, that was held as plenary. In order to maintain momentum, consensus was reached on 20 strategic priorities and action-oriented recommendations to develop and implement sustainable plant production systems towards 2031 to be adopted to local contexts. From each of the different themes, 2 recommendations were highlighted and prioritized. Now, from the farmers and environment, the recommendations are to co-create, test, and upscale socio-culturally appropriate mechanisms that enable farmers, the private sector, and governments, with the support from other stakeholders, both internationally and national organizations, to transition towards sustainable production, providing economic and ecological benefits to all. The second one is to enable the scaling up of sustainable production through systems-level approaches, policies to increase investments, upskilling of public and private actors, and horizontal farmer-to-farmer skills and knowledge sharing through support to producer organizations and grassroots approaches like the farmer field schools. From the seed systems, 2 recommendations, which form number 3 and number 4 of the overall recommendations: support to governments, private sector, and civil society organizations to conserve and characterize genetic diversity and develop diverse, productive, and locally adapted varieties that make the system more resilient and are ready for the future. To facilitate regulatory frameworks, public-private partnerships, farmer representation, effective quality assurance mechanisms, and access to high-quality, disease-free seeds and planting materials. Now, to the field cropping systems, which form number 5 and number 6 of the general resolutions, to promote more efficient production systems by enabling rural communities to have access to knowledge, technologies, and services they require to improve plant productivity, to protect the environment, and create decent jobs both on and off farm. To foster cropping systems that are resilient to biotic and abiotic and socioeconomic stresses through policies, partnerships, and markets that incentivize farmers to improve their livelihoods while protecting natural resources. From the protected cropping systems, number 7 and number 8, to promote optimized protected cropping systems by developing the business case with farmers and facilitating local market development to provide inputs, services, and technologies that increase yields while reducing emissions. To transform urban food systems through the intelligent design of urban horticulture that recycles waste for productive purposes and maximizes the provision of safe, health, food, and ecosystem services. And moving to the natural resource management, the 2 recommendations, which form number 9 and number 10 of the general recommendations, to optimize resource use efficiency through integrated and collaborative approaches, leveraging the combination of local knowledge and scientific methods, and ensure sustainable soil health. To build resilience of people, communities, and ecosystems by integrating human values, social and economic inclusion, and respect for nature at the core of plant production. From the integrated pest management, the two resolutions form number 11 and number 12. And the first one is to reduce climate-induced biotic threats through improved surveillance, diagnostics, and modeling to track and predict the movement of transboundary pests and pathogens, develop guidance on management actions, risk reduction, and plant protection strategies. The next is to co-develop and scale up bio and ecologically based techniques and technology packages that control critical pests while minimizing pollution risk, develop and promote digital tools for sustainable plant protection in collaboration with farmers and marginalized groups. And from the mechanization and digitalization, which forms the 13th and 14th resolution, is to scale up sustainable mechanization by supporting the development of viable business models that provide multiple service and benefits and that can completely serve smallholder farmers while promoting climate resilience and including women and youth as workers and leaders. The next one is to create an equitable digital ecosystem, leveraging on big data and digital solutions to enable farmer access to a range of tools that are responsive to their needs and that support them to achieve financial independence, environmental sustainability, and social inclusion. We also looked at the cross-cutting themes, and three resolutions came out. One is to support innovations in technologies, practices, policies, and business models to facilitate the transition towards more productive, sustainable, health, resilient, and inclusive agri-food systems through evidence-based results and a supportive policy environment that empowers farmers as innovators. The next one is to promote resilience to climate change by testing and co-developing locally appropriate risk management strategies that enable adaptation and leave no one behind. And the last one is to improve the efficiency of plant production and agri-food systems to produce nutritious food, less environmental impact, and low greenhouse gas emissions by harnessing the potential of ecological interactions. Those are the 17 recommendations, and we hope to achieve them through a call of action as additional 3 recommendations to evolve, refine, and scale integrative, inclusive development approaches through partnerships, capacity building, participatory learning, and a strong governance. The next one is to form synergistic technical networks with multidisciplinary approaches to leverage the unique strength of diverse actors to support the transition to sustainable plant production. And lastly, number 20, is to coordinate among key stakeholders to set priorities, to jointly mobilize resources, and scale the innovative approaches. As I conclude, on behalf of the conference organizers and all the participants, I call upon governments, development partners, and all the stakeholders to implement these strategic actions, to support in publicizing them widely through appropriate electronic and print media, and to incorporate them into advocacy materials, but most importantly, to provide feedback to FAO in order to improve its service delivery. I thank you very much, all of you, for your kind attention.
Thank you so much. So clearly presented the conclusions that were basically collected by many people. Having seen this morning, your session this morning, I think we have to add one. include one related to effective extension and inclusion systems with farmers, because we heard this morning very good examples that some things work, but some things don't work yet. And especially what I've seen myself, the Shamba Shape-Up approach in Kenya and other countries now in Africa as well, reaching millions of farmers being effective. But thank you so much. With this,